Hi, I'm State Representative Jeanine Nodder, and you're watching Chattin with Jeanine. My guests this week are returning guests, State Representatives Michael Yakubovich of Hooksett and Bob Healey of Merrimack. Welcome, Representatives. Thank you for sticking around to tape another show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to be here again.
Well, I asked you to stay because I thought we should talk about some legislation because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and some of the biggest misinformation is against House Bill 607, prime sponsored by our good friend Representative Kevin Verville of Deerfield.
That's
I
right.
got it all right that time.
That's a retained bill. It comes to us from 2021 because multiple committees are going to be looking at it just to make sure it's solid. They're going to work on it. First, it's going to finance. We voted on it on the floor just a few days ago. It didn't move just yet, but I hope we come back and send it to a committee.
Well, we didn't actually vote on it. A Democrat stood up and got to the mic immediately before any action could take place and said, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion. And the Speaker said, please state your motion. And they said I wanted to table House Bill 607. And I think some people might have been confused because we saw some names on the list like, whoa, why did that person vote to table?
Right.
Right. Why didn't they
very
want?
unfortunate.
Right. That's right. I believe it should go to a committee. The committee should work on it. The committee should look at it. It's a great bill. It's enabling legislation. It allows towns to look into providing funds to students that want to go to another school within the town or within, yeah.
We call them
those funds.
education freedom accounts. Yeah, is that right?
EFAs,
yeah. EFAs, yep.
So a lot of people think some people think it's going to destroy the public schools. I'm like, that's not true. That hasn't happened in other places where they have this.
Not where I came from in Connecticut. Like I said, it was amazing in Connecticut. We have more public charter schools and magnet schools than any other state. Now, the magnet schools are usually supported by some of the larger businesses, but and the children get a little bit of money, but it's only the money that you're supposed to be getting as a taxpayer that goes to it. It's not the entire amount that it costs a child to put it to go to school. What I liked about the bill that was written too was it still goes to the town to make the decision. And if the town doesn't want it, and it's going to be on a warrant article, that they don't vote for it. It's up to the town. And in a warrant article, in that case, it's going to be 60% of the voters have to approve it. It's going to be very difficult in a town that has a powerful or a good school system that's going to overturn and want to have a charter school in there. But it's usually the struggling schools where the parents have no chance. And I'm not going to mention any towns in the state of New Hampshire, but I can tell you in Hartford and in Bridgeport, Connecticut, they had major issues with those schools. And it made a huge difference to those schools. And the best part about it was it actually made the public schools get better. There was competition, finally. And what happened was it actually...
what happens in the free world?
Yes, what it did, it was actually a competition. Where they were graduating about 35% of the kids in Hartford. After the charter schools came in, the public schools went up to about 55. Now the charter schools were still up in the 80s, and now they've actually fallen down a little bit. But it's been a very good experience for the state of Connecticut, and in New York, you don't even want to talk about with what they've done in the Bronx with Ava Moskowitz, and a lot of people, I put out on Facebook, and I've met the lady and what she's done with the Success Academies in New York City, where she took over some of the schools down there, and in the Bronx, where 96% of the students are minorities, now are scoring as high as the best schools in all of state of New York.
Wow.
So it's an amazing thing. And I just think that people, if they give it a chance and they look at it, and like I said, it's not something it's the town's got to agree to it. It's not going to be something that's going to be, that's going to be thrown at a town and said, oh yeah, you're doing this. It's the town voters get to decide. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, this is an individual approach to education because some kids need something different. They cannot be brought down to the lowest common denominator. And this here, the parents will be able to take the education funds provided to the students and direct it to the school where the student will be served the best, and excel.
Because
excel.
one size does not fit all.
That's correct. That's correct.
And we, over the last few terms, when we were just getting going with this EFAs, I met parents who had kids that were bullied in school, and their only alternative was to put them in another school, but they didn't have money to do that. So with these scholarships available, they were able to get their child to a school where they would be safe.
Yes, last year, the first EFA bill that actually made it was brought forward by late Dick Kinch of Merrimack. So in his, I believe we're supporting his mission by moving this forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was that mental was very endearing to him.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's very hard for you to talk about Dick.
I know. I still miss him. I was texting his wife after that. We talked on the previous show, House Bill 478 with the PFAS bill. That was originally Dick Kinch's bill, and I was texting his wife saying, we just overtook a committee report and passed Dick's bill in the House.
Yes. So I believe he would want every kid to excel where they can be served best. And this is what we're doing.
In the best school possible, whether it be here. And, in Connecticut, you also, you had a choice too. Like, I lived on the border of Windsor and in Bloomfield, and Bloomfield had a lot of students that came in from Harvard, which was allowed. And literally the school that I lived on, literally my back fence was on the border. The closest school to my son was in Windsor, but he could not go to that school. In Connecticut, they finally fixed that. You could choose whatever school you wanted to go to, and that money followed you to that school system.
Huh. Now, and when we lived in California, we moved to New Hampshire in 1998, but my older kids, I homeschooled them when they were very young, but then it just got to be too much. And but I was afraid to send them to public school. But my sister is a teacher, and where she taught was this beautiful neighborhood, this really nice neighborhood, and I couldn't sell my house because of the way the market was, so I couldn't move to that neighborhood, but I was able to get an inter-district transfer and drive 7 miles each way to take my kids to that school, and they did very well, and I felt safe with them there, but I wouldn't have felt safe at all. They would not have been safe where our house was.
They do not allow that in everything. You actually have to get some kind of dispensation to do it too.
But this was also like the 90s too. But
that's what we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
We want to remove those restrictions and have the kids excel like they do in Connecticut or in California in some districts. We want that for everybody in New Hampshire.
And
that's
and
quite simple.
every child is different. Some will do well. Like my oldest, he would have excelled in the Academy of Science and Design if it had been around when he was younger. Mm-hmm. He had already graduated high school, but when they opened it, it was in Merrimack. I don't know if you've heard of that charter school, and now it's in Nashua.
Nashua, yeah, I remember Nashua. Yeah, and why not? Why try to lock the kids down? Why tie them to something they don't want to be in? Mm-hmm. Let's have them move where they need to.
Maybe we can actually get a vocational school to open up.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes. Because we could have actually put some money towards the vocations, because I just think it's a shame that people aren't even talking about that anymore. We've gone completely away from, and like you said, the Academy of Sciences, okay, maybe you want to do science, maybe a mechanic, maybe somebody wants to be a plumber, maybe somebody wants to build houses, maybe there's somebody that's really good with their hands. These people get jobs, and they don't have very, very large bills at the end. They don't have these, student loans that runs into $40,000, $50,000, $100,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one of the biggest scare tactics was they were saying, "Oh, it's going to raise your property tax. It's going to raise your property taxes." And I'm like, well, I don't understand why are they saying that? That's another piece of misinformation. They're just putting it out there to scare people. That's.
It's baseless.
It's baseless. There you go.
It's good. You're talking about in the case of Merrimack, what was it, $4,800 that you're taking away from a student that takes $16,000 or $17,000 to to educate. It's not even the first year. It's phased in over a 4-year period. So it's just weird that we talk about something like that. It's not like you said. It's almost baseless.
Well, and this is enabling legislation, so not every town will jump into it. Let's pass
Right.
it, and let's have some towns try it, and we're going to see what happens.
Yeah, so like
That's what-
Merrimack, I mean, let's facing reality, we have those April elections. Who comes out to vote in the April elections? Not a lot.
Not many people.
So I would have, it would be very difficult to get that
Yeah.
legislation to pass in Merrimack, just being honest.
But I'm sure some other towns in New Hampshire want to give it a try, and we're going to know, and they'll get into it.
And if a town in a general area ends up opening a charter school, doesn't mean that somebody from Merrimack wouldn't take advantage of that and go to that school that's close enough. Like you
Well,
said,
I-
you went to another district.
Right, and I didn't make everybody else pay for it either.
Right.
You know, that was our gas we used to drive our kids across town. So, I don't know. I think the money should follow the child because every child is different. Every child learns at a different pace, and you can't just shove them all into one size fits all because one size doesn't fit anybody. One size fits all doesn't fit anybody. There.
It doesn't
there-
right. Too rigid, right. Let's give them choices.
I have a bill that's going to be heard this week in Ways and Means. It's another Dick Hinch bill to continue his legacy. It's the lowering the BET and the BPT, the business profits tax and the business enterprise tax. We already lowered it in the budget that we passed, but there was actually 2 parts to it. And if everything had stayed on schedule, this lowering the taxes even more would have already been in effect, but it's not. So I put in another bill. Do you have any bills that you'd like to talk about that are coming up this year?
No, the one that I and Maureen put in was big that Dick was thing. It's not a big one, but I think it was very unfair with the veterans passing through the tolls.
Yes.
Going to the Boscawen Cemetery. We thought that was very unfair that they told all the funeral procession going through the tolls. So I hope that one's pretty much of a slam dunk. But the VFW approached us about that one and said, yeah, we think that's pretty unfair, especially people that come from the southern part of the state that have to go through the tolls up in Hooksett. So we want to make sure that we can get that done for the veterans. It's not fair that any of the funeral processions that are going through the tolls get told to go to the Boscawen Cemetery.
It's also easy to get lost in your funeral, if you have to stop and pay the toll. Yep. I know it was hard just to keep Nancy Elliott's funeral procession. She was also a state rep from Merrimack who passed away. When did she die? November? It was in the fall. I think it was November. And we had the funeral here right across the street from where we're taping this show, and we all got in the line and went to Hollis, and my good friend, another former state rep, Lynette Peterson, came back to New Hampshire for the funeral, and she just yelled at everybody on the road, you're not part of this funeral procession, get out of the way. She makes it every day interesting.
It's probably more dangerous if you have to reassemble after the toll, with this huge line of cars.
Yeah. And what wasn't unfair, because I guess some of the toll operators actually understood what was going on and what it was doing. So sometimes they'd wave them through, but then sometimes they wouldn't. So I think that just consistency in the whole thing would be better. So let's just let it go. And you're not talking about a huge amount of people or a huge amount of money. So let's get that one done. And I know there's a couple more PFAS bills going through for the town of Merrimack, which is going to be very big.
There's a lot of bills that have to do with mandates and COVID.
Yeah.
A lot of those.
Yep.
I think there's about 20 bills. I know 255, House Bill 255 was a retained bill, and that one was tabled too, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm getting some emails about that. I'm sure you are too, like how mad they are, and why did you do this, and blah, blah, blah. I said, we didn't have the votes. I'm sorry. We're working on it. And, well, who didn't vote for this? Because I'm going to drag their name through the mud. I said, well, we have another 20 bills coming up. So, I think it would be better to try and work on these people, try to come to some agreement rather than just dragging their name through the mud when you have all these other bills. Like,
Well, the tabling motion doesn't really mean that much. And especially on that one, there was a lot of confusion. What is the right thing to do for 255, like you said, because there are upcoming bills that will address the same problem. A lot of people voted for 255 to be tabled to consider something else.
Do you remember the number for the marijuana bill? There was some confusion on that too, because I was sitting next to a representative who very much wants legalized marijuana, but this particular bill that I don't know if it passed. I think it did pass.
No, the one that didn't pass was the one that was going to be taxed. It was going to be taxed.
Oh, okay.
The override.
The one that did not pass, the one that did pass was the one that you're able to possess 3/4 of an ounce, and or you can grow up to 5 or 6 plants in your own house.
I don't recall what we were
The numbers
talking
were, I
about,
know, but those are the
there
two.
was an
There was
issue
one-
with one of the bills,
Yeah,
and
the
they're
biggest
drafting
thing-
another one. So
Yeah, the biggest issue
don't
that a
even
lot of
remember
people
how I
had that they
voted.
was going to be heavily taxed.
Right.
And, taxation in this state, it does not go over very well.
Yeah. Is that the one that Representative Darrell Abbas spoke to?
Yes.
Okay.
It said it was going to be.
yeah.
We can deal with this, and we can get. He's got another bill going in that says we're going to allow the sale of it, and I don't know how he's going to. How he was going to do it. I know a couple of years ago they introduced trying to do it through the liquor stores. So we'll see how something like that could be done, or something. I don't know, but whatever his bill goes in, I think it'll be better as long as it's not a. Maybe what I should say a visible tax.
Things have changed over the last decade, because I remember getting a lot of emails from people wanting marijuana to pass, and I sat with Dick Hinch. I went, man, I can't believe I just don't know what to do. He says, okay, where did those emails come from? Did they come from your constituents? How do the people that voted for you, how do they want you to vote? And then I just stop and think, I'm like, oh, wow. And I get a lot of support from the Baptist church in Merrimack. That's where Lynette Peterson went. And I got some emails from them, too, that said, we don't want you to vote for that. And like, oh, okay. So I didn't know what to do. Well, it turned out those emails I was getting at the time were not from Merrimack telling me to vote for marijuana. But now, like in the last election, when I walked and knocked on doors and talked to people, I could not believe how many people, that was the only thing that was on their mind was, please vote for marijuana. So now I'm like, oh, God, I plug my nose and press that button. I don't want to do it.
It seems like 70-80% of people in New Hampshire, the Granite Staters, do want it passed in some form.
Yep.
Well, they didn't have the nuns teaching them in school either.
Wait,
I'm like, oh, my.
They've been stuck up in a house for 2 years. What do you think they want to do? No.
Well,
No, I just think that with some of the things you're finding with the medical uses of it are
I never had a problem with
No,
medical.
I know neither,
It's
but I'm
like
just saying.
somebody's dying of cancer, who cares? Let them smoke pot if it makes them feel
but
better.
anything else, blood disorders and some of the other things that they go in massive pain issues.
People with pain,
So
it helps them sleep.
migraines and stuff like that. So I think it's step by step, and it's going the right way in a slow, methodical way that it should be done.
I just
Safe.
always had a hard time with just putting my name on, telling everyone, oh, go ahead, take this, do what you want with. I just had a hard time with that. But now it's like it's what the people want. I feel like I don't have a choice. I have to vote the way they want me to.
Door knocking and hooks, I heard that a lot too. People, it's simple to people. It should be obvious to us, I guess, that they say. And my approach, I never smoked. I never had the need to, but my approach is, I'm gonna vote for it and then let the experts figure it out, like in the Senate or the committees or even the governor, let them figure it out, because I'm no expert, but I think people who know about it.
Someday they will come up with a test for driving, just like driving under the influence. They're very close from what I understand now. So if they come up with that, then I have no issue with it. The police already, come in. They get when you open your window, it's pretty obvious most of the time. So they can say, one, have you been drinking, or one, are you under influence of any drug, any narcotic? So, I'm sure the police aren't for it, but.
Well, some are. You'd be surprised.
Well,
Some are and some aren't. Now, back 10 years ago, I remember when we first passed something in the House, I remember talking to an officer and he was not happy about it.
Really?
And then recently I hear from a policeman who says, I think it should be legalized.
Okay.
Really? Wow. So I don't know. It's in between always voting no and now I have to vote yes. I would just time it right, like, oh, yep, that water bottle I drank is just about due to unload. It's and I take a
Vote
walk.
with your
Yeah.
constituency. Don't worry about it.
So, and I remember sitting out one. I just lingered. I sat in Dick's office, and actually, it was very interesting. I started reading a book, and I ended up borrowing it from him and finishing it. It was a book on how to treat people on drug addiction, and it was an interesting approach. That instead of to keep them off the streets and getting a bad drug that's full of who knows what's in it, giving them their shot every day. Because it's controlled and it'll be more pure, if you can use that word when you're talking about drugs.
They're doing it in
And they
Massachusetts,
get a job. They can live a normal life. But it's like we drink coffee every morning. You don't met me without coffee. I'm a bear. And it was like, wow. It was a good argument that I'd never thought of before. But when I came back after that vote, I sat down and my best friend was sitting next to me. She says, I voted for pot. I mean, she'd always been a no vote too. And she told me, I voted for pot. So,
Was she listening to a constituency or citizenry? That's what's important. We're there to represent the people, not necessarily our own beliefs at that point. That's what we got to realize and separate from.
well, like when we had the pipeline bill, they can put me on that committee so I could hear all that legislation. And I grew up in California. My house was always heated with natural gas. My house here is heated with natural gas. I love natural gas. It is a good source. It's not coal. It's not
Oil.
some of the worst ones. It's not as good as
Nuclear.
Nuclear, I think, is the best. It's very powerful, but it's reliable and it's there.
Let's
But that bill was also, this is going on somewhere else. But anyway, I kind of voted
Soviet
against
Union has a whole bunch of oil. How do they feel about nuclear power?
I think probably fine.
Oh, okay. Because usually they like to sell a lot of the oil, so I figured.
For sure.
But with nuclear power is usually.
Yes, they sell it to other parts. Russia sells it.
Russian
Oh,
power.
to the
Now
west, to the
all of
west,
Europe, yeah.
to the west, yeah.
Yep.
All of Europe.
Because
Now.
when I visited the country, Georgia, I asked, like, where do you get your power from? And they said, oil from Russia.
Yeah, I'd love to see nuclear power back again. My father was, part of Eversource, and he brought me over when Seabrook was being built. I actually got to see before it was even built.
Did you see Bob Backus getting arrested for jumping the fence?
I saw a lot of people laying across the road that you couldn't even get
Rennie
in.
Cushing, he's another one.
But,
Did you know, here's some trivia, did you know Germany has the highest energy costs in the world, followed by Australia? And California has the highest energy costs in the nation.
Well, a lot of
And
places
if
have shut down nuclear power, and they've shut down a lot of
Germany.
coal.
German just did.
And they have people that they can't heat their homes. They can't afford it because all they have is the
Have to talk to Wolf
unreliables.
about that and see if that's,
So if you want to be a nerd, there's this nice little app called ISO to go. So ISO to go, and you can tap on it and find out what the
where our
going rate
energy's
is.
coming from.
Yeah, no, it's how much we're paying right now for a
okay.
megawatt. Right now, at this moment in time, $119.73. And California has one too. Oof. There's the more ISO today. Let's see what they're paying.
Got to look at Hawaii.
I don't have my glasses on, and I can't find the right
Don't worry about
thing here. Anyway, it's terrible.
Yeah,
California.
California.
Oh, California. Yeah, Hawaii is terrible.
Because
they're also using just the
I wouldn't
unreliables.
say on an island they wouldn't want to put the nuclear power, but if you look at China is actually building like what they call mini nuclear power plants. Now you've seen that coming up, which actually can power smaller cities rather than trying to power a whole state. We put one more nuclear power plant up where they're going to put the trash plant instead. We could power the whole state, and our prices would drop by a lot of money.
Yeah. Again, with the misinformation.
Yes.
We talked about nuclear power on the first two shows you were on.
Yeah,
I don't know, one
we
of those.
did. We did.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, he was there when Chernobyl exploded.
Yeah.
He was in the area. So now we have about 3 minutes left. So is there anything you want to throw out there or to say to the viewers?
Nice to be on the show for the
Yeah.
fourth show.
That's right. That's
You're
right.
becoming a celebrity.
Yeah, people are going to know who you are now, and you're like, hey, I know who you are.
If they see me on TV, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work up ahead, for us in the session. Next week is committees. The week after is committees. Whole bunch of bills to hear.
From here to March, it's going to be a very busy time.
Very busy.
Yep.
Yep. So we're gonna
756 bills, I think it was.
Yeah, at least it's not 1,000.
No.
Yeah. And what committee are you on again?
eDNA.
eDNA. Okay, Carol
Carol McGuire.
McGuire
is
is
the
your
chair,
chairman,
yeah.
and you are on Recreation,
R&D.
Resources, and Development.
So it's
Yeah.
recreation development.
Are
Yep.
you just one committee for you?
Just one committee. Well, I have the, not a great committee, but I have the 737 commission. So,
Yeah.
that meets on Friday. So.
Are you on just one committee?
Just one.
Okay, now I don't know why you guys get away with just one. A lot of us are doing two.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. You don't mind if I put your names in?
We have 400 people. No, we got plenty of people. How many committees we got?
Yeah,
I
well,
think
we
we're
got-
fine.
20.
I don't know. We have some that don't want to be on a committee, so
Right,
Yeah, I know.
right.
Well,
yeah.
Some of these here.
You know, you got
It builds
elected.
character.
You got elected to do a job. That's like showing up. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel for the people that have to drive every single day to come there, not the representatives that are elected. If somebody has to come and testify, I think we could probably look at them doing something remotely. I don't have a problem with that,
I
especially
do.
waiting all day. Not legislate, not
Yeah.
lobbyists either.
Well, yeah. Well, in the last minute of the show, before we had that technology and people couldn't come in to testify, they sent us emails. Just send us emails.
Yep.
We get the emails.
Yep.
We make
I agree,
copies.
that's
We all
it.
read them. That's our
Yeah.
homework. Like I remember one time we had a bill. I swear there were 7 Mr. Browns that were there, and I'm like, why do you all have the same last name? And I was checking them off, and I got too confused. They came up from D.C. They wanted it to be a state, and I don't know how many years ago that was, but Al Baldessaro was my chairman at the time. And now we are officially out of time. So thank you, folks, for watching. Again, I'm Representative Jeanine Nodder. The three of us are all New Hampshire State Representatives. Seated next to me in the middle, we have Michael in the middle, Michael Yakubovich of Hooksett, and Bob Healey of Merrimack. So thank you again, gentlemen, for staying and taping 2 shows with me this week. And I'll be back again someday.
Thanks.
Thank you.